Cool. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Is an Electric Vehicle Right for You? This webinar today is hosted by the Roseville Utility Exploration Center in partnership with Roseville Electric. My name is Braden Mitchell and I am the Senior Interpretive Services Specialist at the Utility Exploration Center. For those of you who may not know us, we're part of our utility departments here in Roseville. Now, all of our utilities are municipally owned and operated. That includes solid waste, stormwater, wastewater, water, and of course, electric. The Utility Exploration Center is a one-of-a-kind environmental learning center, and we focus on bringing visitors information and protecting our natural resources. Our topics include energy efficiency, renewable technology, recycling, waste reduction, and water conservation. We do this through school programs, events, we have a free visitor center, workshops, and of course webinars, just like this one. Now, unfortunately, our visitor center is closed right now, but when we do reopen, I want to invite all of you to come by and explore Roseville Utilities with us, because together we can build a sustainable community. Now, before we launch into our webinar today, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping rules or housekeeping items for us. First of all, this webinar is being recorded. And we will probably next week, we'll have this up on our website for everyone to rewatch or watch for the first time. That is roseville.ca.us/EV. We've also posted a link to all of the slides that we're going to be showing you today, and that's on that same webpage. Now, if you have questions during the webinar, you can use our Q&A box. So let me show you where that is. So up there in the upper right corner, where you see that little red circle, if you click that button, it'll open up this side panel that you can see on the screen. Now, on the bottom of that side panel, there's a button that says Ask a Question. So you can click that button and type in the question. You also have an option of typing in your name. That's completely optional. If you do that, it just allows us to respond directly back to you by name. Now, at the end of our webinar, we're going to be collecting all of the questions that have been posed today, and we're going to answer those and put that up on that same website for everyone to be able to read and download as well. Again, that's roseville.ca.us/EV. Now, for our webinar, we do have a few staff from Roseville Electric today with us. We have two staff that we're going to be monitoring those questions. So as you think of questions, go ahead and write those in that chat box, and they can be able to answer those for you. And of course, we have our main presenter today. Our main presenter is Rachel Rendell Harris. Now, Rachel is the Energy Program Manager. She's worked in the EV field for 4 years. She has her BS in Civil and Environmental Engineering and a Master's in Business Administration. Rachel is, of course, a certified energy manager. Now, when she's not doing all that, Rachel is also watching after 4 kids at home. And one of my favorite things about her is she's a river guide up on the American rivers, kind of up near the Auburn area. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get off the screen. I'm going to kick it over to Rachel. Rachel, are you ready?
I am. Thank you. All right. So thank you everyone for being here today. I really appreciate you taking your time and your lunch hour to be with us and learn about whether an EV is right for you. If you have any questions after the presentation's over, my email is there on the screen. And at the end of the presentation, I'll put it up again just in case you missed it. So if you're anything like me, you have questions as we go along. Unfortunately, we can't talk back and forth during the presentation, but feel free to jot down those questions in the chat area because I know I forget them if I wait all the way to the end, and then we'll go ahead and get back to those at the end of the presentation. If I can get this going. There we go. Okay, so why now? Electric vehicles have been around for over 100 years, but they haven't been as popular until right now. So why is that? Well, we have some high gas prices and pollution reduction, and has caused some government mandates that are really driving us to be more have cleaner air and be more conscious about the environment. And the other thing that's exciting about EVs is that the technology has really developed recently that's made it really fun to use them. They're really reliable, and you can trust that they're going to get you to where you want to be. The fuel is cheaper. Electricity is cheaper than gas. They're very powerful. They have a lot of get up and go. But you don't hear that. I don't know if you've ever heard, tried to be in a parking lot when someone starts up their electric vehicle, but it's not quite the same as someone who starts up their big truck next to you and you don't even realize that it's gone. They're very easy to use with all their high tech. It's very self-explanatory how to use them and very intuitive. They have a lot of fun amenities, and the nice thing is they're low maintenance. They don't have near as many parts and pieces that could break. So let's get started with some basic EV terms, so that way we're all talking the same language. There's many different words for an electric vehicle. You can call them an EV or a PEV, which is an electric vehicle or a plug-in electric vehicle. Both of those mean the same thing, and they mean the same thing as a battery electric vehicle. So all of those refer to vehicles that are just running on electricity and no gas. On the other side, there's also a PHEV or a PEV, and that is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So they have a battery for the electric vehicle side. They also have a backup gas tank that can get you to more places after the electricity is all gone. Kilowatt hour capacity is really about the amount of electricity that fits in your electric gas tank. So you get about 3.3 miles for every kilowatt hour that you charge your battery. So when you're looking for a car, you're looking at how far it will get you on that number of kilowatt hours. So that kind of gives you an idea. Kilowatt hour usage on the other side is how you get your charge on your electricity bill at the end of the month. So you'll figure out what your usage is, how much electricity you've taken off the grid to put into your car, and how many cents per kilowatt hour is charged gives you your total bill. An EVSE is electric vehicle supply equipment. So that's all the chargers that you see around town in people's garages, the people that have the handle that you plug into the electric vehicle, they call those EVSEs. And then they come in different levels. A level 1 charger is actually just taking an extension cord and plugging it into a regular plug on the wall. A level 2 is a bigger equipment that we'll talk a little bit more about later, that charges a little bit faster. And then a DC fast charger is the fastest one, and you'll see those mainly in public places around town. They also have different kinds of connectors for level 1 and level 2 and DC fast chargers, and we'll get into the details on that as well. So here's the basics of a battery electric vehicle. There's not a lot of pieces. There's a motor, a controller, a charger, a battery, not near as many things that have to work together in order to make the electric vehicle go. So it's nice because there's a lot fewer things that can go wrong. When you're talking about how they work, they've mainly got an electric motor, a large battery, a charger, and then the electronics that run off of everything and keep everything working well together. There's no oil, so there'll be no oil changes. They've got regenerative braking, which means that they use the friction of when you put the brakes on to recharge the battery a certain amount. So that actually makes it so there's less wear and tear on the brakes. There's fewer moving parts. You don't have to worry about combusting fuel and things like that have all those extra parts of that big engine. So the nice part is there's fewer things to break. And because things aren't combusting, it's not as warm in an engine of an electric vehicle. So things don't break down because they get hot. Basically, overall, it's just lower maintenance and saves everyone a lot of money over time of owning an electric vehicle. So, will it get me to where I want to go? This is probably the most common question that I get. These electric vehicles, I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road. So how do I figure out if this is going to be the right thing for me? So the average driver, based on some research, drives about 40 miles per day. If you're talking about an all-electric vehicle, there's several models that get about 200 miles in range from their gas tank or their battery charge, but some get over 300 miles. So you'll want to look into what that mileage of range is when you're talking about buying an electric vehicle. A plug-in hybrid where it has gas and electric, you normally get about 93 miles depending on the vehicle from your electric battery, but then you can get up to 620 miles total with the gas tank on top of that. The range for price for those is anywhere from $20,000 after incentives to $120,000. So it depends on kind of what you're looking for in a price range as well. So there's lots of things to consider. The main thing that a battery, aside from just what generally the range is, the main thing that matters when you're talking about how far will it let you go, there's factors that impact batteries. Temperature outside can make it so your battery go further or shorter. Also, your habits, how you're driving around. Are you pushing the gas tank or the gas pedal on a lot or just a little? Also the terrain. If you're going uphill, you tend to go through the battery a lot faster than when you're going downhill, just like a gas tank. So there's a lot of different things that you want to consider where you're driving and how you're driving that could influence how far you can go on that electric vehicle battery gas tank. So how does charging work? The EV has a charger that's built in. So every electric vehicle, in that area where the little handle goes into the car, there's actually a charger built in there. And it tells the car how fast it can charge. So the little handle lets electricity in, but it goes in at just the right speed for your car based on what your car is being told by that charger. It regulates the flow and it communicates back and forth between that EVSE equipment and the actual car itself. So you don't have to worry about, does this charger work or that charger work, because it's really the car that tells the equipment how fast it can take that electricity. When you're doing home charging, there's level 1, which is a standard outlet, just plugging basically an extension cord into the wall. And overnight that fills you up by about 30 miles. So if you're going to be going more than that in a day, then you'll probably want to step up to a level 2. A level 2 charger is a 240 volt outlet. So that's the same as an electric dryer. They charge normally at least twice as fast as just plugging it into your outlet, your 120 volt outlet, but they can be much faster. And they're typically used in both home and in public charging. So you'll see level 2 chargers at workplaces, but you'll also see them at homes. It's a variety of people that use that level. Normally they're around $600 plus the cost of installation, and installation varies dramatically depending on if you already have that outlet in your garage or if you need to have an electrician come in and install that outlet into your garage. So there's a lot of things that you'll want to talk to an electrician about what it would take to get that level 2 charger installed. A DC fast charger is a little different. It's called a DC fast charger because it actually uses a different kind of electricity than your typical electricity in your house. Normally you have something called alternating current in your home, and that's used for all of your appliances in your house. Direct current is something that the electric vehicles use in their batteries, and what we tend to put straight into the electric vehicle, which means it can charge at a much higher rate. So it goes really fast, it's high powered, and it's public charging normally near malls and commercial spaces. It's easy and it's safe, which is great. It has a different normally connector, so you need to make sure that you have the right connector for your electric vehicle. But the thing about electric vehicles and DC fast chargers, well, electric vehicles in general, is they have a charging curve. So they tend to start out slow and then they get to kind of a maximum charging rate. And then after they get about 80% full, then it slows down dramatically. So most people, when they're charging at a DC fast charger, will charge to about 80% because it'll take just as long to get that remaining 20 as it did for the first 80% when they ramp up. So most people just charge to 80% in those DC fast chargers, so that way they can get in and get out in about 20 to 30 minutes. But yeah, again, when you're going to the dealer, make sure that if you're planning on using a DC fast charger, which would normally mean you're planning on going on longer trips and taking your car further from your home and from where you charge on a regular basis, make sure that they have the connector so you can actually attach to that while you're going on different trips. So a lot of people ask, where do I tend to charge my electric vehicle? Am I going to be sitting out in a bunch of parking lots all the time? Well, you're going to be doing the majority of your charging at home. Your gas station is your garage. Every night you're going to come home and you're just going to plug in your car, and then in the morning it's going to be full, and that's going to be the way that you have to kind of operate. But the nice thing is you don't have to go to any gas stations. You don't have to worry about the smell of the gas or waiting in line or searching for an available gas station. You just get to drive home every night, plug in your car, and then it's ready and waiting in the morning. And the nice thing is it's also going to be only about $1 per gallon for gas, or for electricity for your new fuel, as opposed to, I think we're above $3 a gallon, depending on where you're getting it. So The public charging for level 2 is around $2 per gallon, but that's still much cheaper than gasoline. So you're saving some money in the long run. So is gas or electricity cheaper? That's also a good question that's a little hard to figure out. So I thought, well, we'd do the math today to just kind of talk through how that works. The average daily drive is about 40 miles, as we talked about before. Normally it's less on weekends. So if you take the $12,000 miles per year, that's the average, you divide it out having to do with weekends, you get about 33 miles per day on average, including those weekends people normally drive less. So 33 miles per day, about 300 kilowatt hours, is about 300 kilowatt hours. Which with Roseville Electric's rates, it goes from about $28 to $43 per month, depending on the rate that you're on. Roseville operates on a tiered system, so that means the more you use over in a month, the higher the cost is for that kilowatt hour. So in the beginning of the month, it may be cheaper to charge your car, and at the end of the month, it may be a little bit more expensive, depending on how much electricity you've used that month. Driving a normal gas fuel car is about 33 miles per day, assuming 25 miles per gallon and $3.50 per gallon for cost of gas. You're looking at about $140 a month in gas. So a savings of up to $112 per month, which can add up pretty quickly. So are there environmental benefits to driving an electric vehicle? Of course there are. Gas-powered vehicles emit smog, soot, and other air pollution, which can lead to serious environmental impacts and health impacts. The average EV reduces greenhouse gases by about 2 metric tons per year. And with the increasing number of renewables that are coming onto the grid each year, it means that your car is actually getting cleaner and cleaner as all of the electric utilities are making their resources more green over time. So what incentives are there that are available for electric vehicles? Well, there's a federal tax credit of up to $7,500 on each new EV. In California, we have something called the California Clean Vehicle Rebate Project, or the CVRP, which is up to $2,500, but it depends on the vehicle model and also on your income level. Roseville Electric offers $300 for new electric vehicles and $500 for network chargers. So network chargers means that it's something that can connect through the internet to some kind of app or something that we can get that information back off of how you're using your charger. So that way we can get information or you can get information to make sure you know how much electricity you're using and when you're using it, and also program it to possibly operate at certain times. Right now, Roseville Electric doesn't have a special rate just for electric vehicles, but we're anticipating that in the future, when our infrastructure allows, that we will. And so part of that has to do with being able to program your charger to turn on at certain times of the day to make sure that you're maximizing the usage at certain times. So that's why we want to make sure you have a connected or smart charger to make sure that you can program it to do the things that you want to do to help maximize that rate when it comes available. Up to $1,800 in incentives in general, but these incentives are changing on a regular basis. The governor just announced that they want all new vehicles to be zero carbon by 2035, which means that there's going to be a lot of work in promoting electric vehicles. So there's always new things that are coming out. So make sure you do your research on the rebates that are available before you go ahead and purchase your vehicle. So about finding that right vehicle and getting that information. Our new online tool helps make your shopping process much easier. You can go onto Roseville's website for electric vehicles and find that PlugStar banner, and that'll help you walk through how many miles you drive, where do you go, what kind of car are you looking for, and then it'll give you a list of options of different vehicles that might be the right fit for you and where you might be able to find them, because we have partnerships with certain dealers in the area. You can visit our website at roseville.ca.us/EV. But in general, if you just go to our Roseville website, you can also find residential programs for other things like energy efficiency and solar and other things as well. But we do have specific programs around residential EV programs, commercial programs for fleet and workplace charging. We also have an EV ambassador program. So if you buy an electric vehicle and want to share your experience with others, that's also something that we'll be doing as well. And we also have information on where the public charging stations are around town. And we actually have a couple areas where Roseville Electric actually pays for the electricity for those for free public charging. Okay, I think that was a good overall view of all the fun things around EVs. If you have any questions, I'm sure that you've been writing in the chat. So you go ahead and start asking those questions whenever you're ready. And I appreciate you all for being on here today. And don't forget that we'll be putting a recording up, and we'll also be putting up frequently asked questions at the end too. So if I don't get to something or don't have the answer right now, we'll make sure to include that on the frequently asked questions.
Rachel, you're right. We have had a number of great questions come through during your presentation, so I'll address those one by one. And as Rachel mentioned, we will work to answer all of these questions and either connect with you one-on-one after the presentation or post these as a part of our frequently asked questions. So the first question that came through, Rachel, is there a better time to charge your EV? One of our residents had heard that charging in the middle of the day from 10 to 2 is great because you can take advantage of all of that solar power on the grid.
So there are better times to charge. Right now, Roseville Electric doesn't have a rate that gives you a discount for that. But if you're just looking at helping the environment and trying to find times when it is better to charge, the middle of the day when solar is available is a great time. Also, the middle of the night after midnight and before probably 6 o'clock in the morning is also another great time, because that's normally when wind happens to be more available and most people are sleeping, so they're not using their electricity, so there's plenty of electricity available. So those are really the best times of the day, when the sun is up in the peak middle of the day, before we get to that after 4 p.m. when all the air conditioners come on. If we can soak in that solar and put it into our electric vehicles, that's a great thing to do.
Great, thanks, Rachel. One of the other questions that came through is concern in regards to maintenance costs and also after the warranty that goes along with a lot of electric vehicles. Do those costs tend to be more than gas-powered vehicles?
So overall, the maintenance costs tend to be lower. Normally, at this point, depending on which vehicle you buy, the initial cost of the new vehicle is more expensive, but the maintenance cost over time tend to offset those. There are some issues around when the battery gets to a certain level that you might need to replace the battery. So that's really something that you should be talking with the dealer about and the manufacturer about, how long those batteries normally are lasting and how to best use them to maximize the length of that battery life, because there are certain things that you can do that'll make it so that life is shorter or longer. So really talking with the dealer about that is a great thing to have that conversation about. But overall, the maintenance costs are lower for electric vehicles. So that's something that, and you don't have to go to a gas station or get your oil changed or change out half the things that you do in your car right now. So that's the nice part.
On that same line, I know it varies from vehicle to vehicle and also driving behavior, but is there an average lifetime for the battery of an EV?
I would say no. It really depends on how you're driving your vehicle and how you're using it. And I think that'll also change as time goes on, because what batteries don't normally just work or not work. Normally their amount of charge goes down over time. So if you have a battery that has 300 miles on it and it goes down by 10%, then you still have a substantial amount of distance that you can go on your vehicle, and you can keep that battery for a nice long time. If you bought something 10 years ago that had only 60 miles on your battery and then it goes down 10% or 20%, then that makes it so it's hard to get to where you need to go. So it really depends on how long that battery, what the initial life or the initial distance that you can get, the range on that battery, and how fast it goes down. The other thing too is a lot of electric vehicle manufacturers are starting to make it so you could actually use your battery to power your home in emergency situations, or to offset some costs of electricity for peak, and to help with some of those peak issues that we're having, especially in California on some of our more busy days with air conditioning. So those are great, but the more you use your battery, the shorter that lifespan becomes. So you have to really think about that cost benefit analysis when you're considering buying your vehicle.
So for somebody who's maybe not doing a significant amount of driving, but having the vehicle parked, for instance, somebody who enjoys hiking or the outdoors and is leaving their electric vehicle parked for a significant amount of time, does that cause any drain on the battery during that downtime?
Well, I think that just like any battery, having, or most parts of most electronic things, having it just sit for long periods of time isn't great. You're going to need to hopefully turn it on and drive it around for a period of time just to make sure that everything's working well. But I haven't gotten a lot of information on that. Let me have Aaron or one of the other folks on the line take that question down, and I can do a little bit more research and get back to you on that one.
Great, thank you, Rachel. One of the other questions that came through is for residents, since a significant amount of that charging takes place at home for many residents, those residents that do not have a garage or maybe live in multifamily residence, what sort of charging options are available for them, and how would they go about finding that charging?
So this is a really good question, because there are a lot of people who live in multifamily buildings or are renters that may not have the same access to charging. The first thing that we're doing as Roseville Electric is we're promoting some rebates that can go to those multifamily buildings to hopefully help get those chargers installed. So you can definitely go to the building owner and ask them if they have any intention of putting in a charger, and maybe talk to them about the fact that there are a lot of rebates for those types of things, and that we might be able to talk with them about that. But if there's no charging available, and there probably won't be, there's also the option that you could maybe charge at work. A lot of workspaces are now installing chargers in their different buildings, and a lot of people who rent are now charging at work during the day and then going home. It's pretty much the equivalent, because you spend about as much time at work as you would be sleeping during the night. So that's an option. And then for those people who don't have either option, there is the public charging that's available. A DC fast charger can charge up to 80% of your vehicle in about 30 minutes. It may be more expensive than charging at home, but if that's your only option, it's probably still going to be roughly the same, or maybe a little cheaper. You'd have to go and look at the actual rates on the DC fast charger for what that fuel cost would be versus gasoline.
And just to be conscious of time as we get ready to wrap up here, we'll end with one last question. Since there are a number of both state and federal tax credits are available, are there expiration dates on those incentive programs?
So this one's a little challenging, because there are some expiration dates on things. We don't have any expiration dates on Roseville Electrics right now. What we try to do is there's changes to programs on a regular basis that we try to make people aware of ahead of time, and then we give a little grace period afterwards, where if people bought a car and they file for the rebate, but maybe it closed last month, and we try to make it so there's that smooth transition between those rebates. But it's always changing. So the big thing is just, if you plan on getting a rebate, call up that organization that you know is providing that, or go to their website and see if there's any information on that. If you buy it while the rebate's on their website, normally they'll honor that, because they want to make sure that they're giving you the money that they said they would when they said it was available. But if you're concerned at all, feel free to go and talk with those organizations, give them a call, and they'll let you know if they're planning on making any program changes or if there's any expiration dates on those rebates.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel. And for everybody's questions we weren't able to answer today, remember, check back. We will be posting them as part of our FAQs, and Rachel's contact information is on the screen if you have a more specific question you would like to ask. Braden?
Thank you, Rachel, for that amazing presentation. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, everybody else, for joining us today. And just in case you miss something, or if you're like me and you think of that great question after the presentation is over, there's a ton of great information on roseville.ca.us/EV. The other thing we're going to be doing in probably about an hour or so is sending out a survey. If you could just take a few minutes and fill out the survey about the webinar, it helps us know how we should improve, what we did well. Also, there's an opportunity for you to write in other webinars that you might be interested in checking out. So this is a fairly new option for us, and so we're always looking for great ideas of future webinars that we can do as well. Again, thank you so much for visiting today. Thanks again to Rachel and the rest of Roseville Electric staff. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.